the one who will teach Sukuna about love is... This idea was brought up repeatedly throughout Jujutsu Kaisen. But there's one problem. Sukuna rejects everything that gives human life meaning. Love, empathy, human connection. To him, all of it is worthless. So how could Yuji ever teach someone like that about love? What did Yuji understand about Sukuna that Sukuna himself never understood? Who was the key that allowed Yuji to uncover the mystery behind the King of Curses? By the end of this video, you will see why Yuji's understanding of Sukuna is a psychological masterclass. Yuji's journey towards understanding Sukuna actually started with Mahito. At first, Yuji saw Mahito as his complete opposite. Someone who treats human lives as disposable. But after their final confrontation, Yuji accepted a difficult truth. Understanding someone doesn't mean agreeing with them fully. Even your greatest enemy can share something fundamental with you. This lesson would completely change the way Yuji approached Sukuna. Instead of asking what Sukuna did, Yuji started asking why. Why does Sukuna reject human connection? Why does he see no value in other people? Why does he live only for his own pleasure? Nobody is born believing these things, so what happened? At first glance, Yuji and Sukuna couldn't be more different. Yuji lives for others. Sukuna lives for himself. Yuji sees value in every life. Sukuna sees value only in strength, commitment, and pleasure. They appear to be complete opposites. But when Yuji looked deeper, he found something unexpected. The two of them actually had more in common than either of them wanted to admit. Sukuna described himself as an unwanted child. A person whose existence was rejected from the very beginning. Nobody taught him that he had value simply because he existed. Nobody taught him that his life mattered beyond what he could do. That upbringing reminded Yuji of someone, himself. Yuji's own childhood was far from perfect. His parents disappeared from his life at a young age. He grew up without the family structure most children rely on. In many ways, Yuji could have ended up isolated as well. Yet, he didn't become another Sukuna. Why? Because Yuji had someone Sukuna never had, his grandfather. Masuke Itadori didn't just raise Yuji. He gave Yuji something much more important. A sense of intrinsic worth. Yuji learned that people matter simply because they are people. Not because they are strong and not because they are useful. They matter because they exist. And Yuji eventually realized that Sukuna never learned this lesson. Under slightly different circumstances, he himself could have become another Sukuna. And suddenly, Sukuna's entire worldview starts to make sense. If nobody ever taught him that he as a human has intrinsic value, then why would he value it? Sukuna doesn't value people for who they are. He values them for what they can provide. Strength, entertainment, potential, pleasure. That's why he respected Jogo, Gojo, and Higuruma. Not because he cared about them as people, but because they could provide entertainment for him. Yuji seems to arrive at a mesmerizing conclusion. He viewed Sukuna as someone who was never taught that he, as a human being, had intrinsic value. That makes Yuji's domain expansion so fascinating. Yuji at first didn't simply try to eliminate Sukuna. And he also didn't try to convince Sukuna to simply not be evil anymore. Yuji patiently walked Sukuna through ordinary memories, places, experiences, moments that seem completely insignificant. Why? Because these are the moments that shaped Yuji's understanding of life. The exact kind of moments Sukuna was missing in his life. Yuji at first wasn't showing Sukuna power. He was showing him humanity. The small moments that make life meaningful and made Yuji into the person he became. And in the process of understanding Sukuna, Yuji also changed himself. For most of the story, Yuji believed that people had roles to fulfill. His role was to consume Sukuna's fingers, to help others, and eventually die. This mindset is often referred to as Yuji's cork mentality. But through his attempt to understand Sukuna, Yuji arrived at a different conclusion. A human life doesn't need a grand purpose to have value. It doesn't need extraordinary achievements. People matter because they exist. Even if all they do is eat, sleep, and stay at home, their lives still have value. And that's the lesson Yuji tried to show Sukuna inside his domain. Not a lesson about morality or strength, but a lesson about what makes life worth living. The moments Sukuna lacked in his early life. Unfortunately, Sukuna rejected it completely. Even after Yuji offered him a chance to see the world differently, Sukuna remained unwilling to question the worldview he had built over an entire lifetime. And that, perhaps, is the greatest tragedy of his character. Yuji finally understood Sukuna, but Sukuna could never understand himself. But that raises an even bigger question. If Yuji understood Sukuna so well, why was Sukuna unable to accept his conclusion? Why was he only able to acknowledge Yuji's insights once he was in afterlife? And how is it connected to his enthusiasm for binding vows Maki and Yuta? This video only captures some ideas I explored by making a full Jungian shadow analysis about Yuji, Mahito, and Sukuna. If you want to know why Mahito didn't get the same treatment as Sukuna by Yuji, and how Sukuna's secret ultimate obsession blocked him from making any progress, check out the full analysis. As always, thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and write your opinion in the comments. I made a lot of similar analysis videos in the past, so feel free to check them out. More content on the way, so stay tuned, subscribe to my channel, and yeah, hopefully see you soon.